Okay, so we're COMP1011 and it's week 5, lesson 5, part 1. We just finished our tests and our practical and our quiz. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about our GUI components again. Now again, this is a massive presentation that we're going to kind of hover on for a while. I'm probably going to skip through piece parts, but it's 228 slides for a reason, because there's little parts and part of its demo. I'm just going to turn the light down a little bit. So the idea with this stuff, with GUI for Java, is I don't need you to be an expert in GUI, right? We're gonna do an assignment with GUI, and I'll probably end up giving it to you at some point next week, something to do with GUI, right? Again, it'll probably be due the week after, or something like that. Like typically, that's how we do it, right? So we're sitting at week 6 next week, right? It'll be probably due week 7. It'll be probably worth like, again, 5%. We're going to go into that bucket range as well. And then usually around week 7, we try and have a midterm exam, right? But it's kind of early because we've only kind of hit this test week 5, right? So we're sitting at week 5. Week 6, we're into like, kind of doing a couple of other things. And then week 7, you'll get your test will be due, and I'll still do stuff. So probably week 8, just after the break, we'll do the midterm, all right? And midterm will cover everything that we just did, plus GUI, those two things, right? So there'll be a practical piece. It mostly will be practical, I guarantee you. There's not going to be a lot of multiple choice. The multiple choice pieces, if I have to add any, are going to be small. But it's going to mostly be like a practical thing for your midterm. And it's going to last, instead of a 1-hour thing, it's going to be probably a 2-hour thing, right? Are you good?
Yeah.
Okay. There won't be lecture during that time. So if we do a midterm like week 8, then that midterm will just purely be lecture, purely be the actual test. There'll be no teaching class that day, right? Just to give you an idea of where we're at. Okay, so we talked last week when we did the example last week. I'm just going to pull it up what we were working on last week. If you guys remember correctly, we kind of touched upon this show input dialog, and again, it's a programmatic way of pulling up almost like an alert message box in JavaScript. If you're in JavaScript, this would be like an alert, all right, or some kind of prompt. That's the equivalent that what you'd be used to, right? And that's kind of what we hit last week. And again, if you remember from a import perspective, we did this import javax swing and then the J option pane, right? Now there's a bunch of other things we can do, and I'm just going to go back, kind of to what we were talking about before, because in here, here's our example of all the little things we can do. So a J option pane is one of them, but we can also add additional components we can call upon to create our Java GUIs, if you will, right? Some pieces here that we're looking at are like a menu, a title bar, and so on, get added into something else. You have to have a container class or some kind of container that you're going to use to create this stuff. Okay, and we talked about Nimbus. Nimbus is just the way things look. You don't have to do it, but it showed us that these are the things we covered last week in terms of our input. And again, there's no validation that we've done so far with our input. We're assuming that the user is going to enter perfect input, right, at this point, right? Which is not always the case, right? And then we went right into a show message dialog, and there's different options. One of the options you can use is a message, a plain message, which is no icon, which is one of the things we covered. And what I kind of did with you guys is do this error message, which changes the icon to this. Now there's different constants that you can use, and again, it's part of that J option pane class. So if I was to go back to show you that, just to remind you of what we did, we kind of did this J option show message dialog, same thing. So here's our show input dialog, and the show message dialog takes care of different kinds of messages, alerts, basically, an alert box, right? One, we did a plain message, and the other one we used an error message. That's all we did last week. Okay. Okay, so again, we looked at the swing components we talked about is this JAVAX swing area, right? But we also have this AWT package, if you will, which we can do. We can use java.awt instead of javax.swing, right? You all done? Okay. I'm going to log off and log in as yourself. Hold on. You're all good to go. Great. And then if you just, you might leave it in there because maybe you need it for your own stuff. Okay, sorry about that. So again, there's a different way, a different class we would call upon with when we want to use this abstract window toolkit that's part of the whole swing environment thing. Okay, so again, there's different components we're gonna call upon, and these are different components which we just talked about. There's a JPanel, right, which is basically your almost like a window. That's what you would consider it. When you call up a JPanel, it's like almost like saying new window, all right? And inside your JPanel, you're going to put things like a list, a combo box, a button, a text field, a label, all these other things, right? So your JPanel is your container class, or your container object, if you will, okay? And I'm just going to skip this piece for a second. So again, when you look at the component, right, it has different, it's part of the Java AWT package. Let's take a look at some code. This is the way the, when I say component, each component is, again, you can have a container that's part of the component class, right? It's interesting. It's almost like the component class is a subclass. We're talking about inheritance now. A subclass of the object superclass, just like everything else is, right? So container is a subclass of component, and JComponent, which is where we add in all our other components, for example, like button and all that kind of stuff, is a subclass of container. So even though you have a button is really it also is a container of a kind, right? Because a button also includes a label, right? A button is not just a button. There's a bit of an image, and there's a label that's inside the button, right? So it is a class that has different piece parts to it. Let me just take go forward a little bit more. I'm going to skip forward. I want to look at some code. So here's an example of some code. And again, if you notice, there's a couple of things we're doing here. Is I'm creating a couple of constants up here, right? And if you notice, I'm creating something called my class, my public class up here, right? Is called label frame, right? Label frame that extends the Jframe class, right? So what am I doing here? I'm actually creating my own custom window, right? My window, I'm just going to use window as the name, but really what we want from a Java perspective, the words we need to use, the terminology is Jframe, right? So when we say Jframe, think about a window or a screen. That's what we're talking about here, right? So we put up a window, and this window component, we have to create our own custom class in order for us to do this. So if you notice here, we have a bunch of these import statements that import Jframe, JLabel, anything that we're going to use inside of our Jframe. And then you also have to use this. There's a flow layout. There's different layouts you can use. This is just one of them. But in this particular example, what we're doing is we're creating our own class, right? And then once we've created our class, we instantiate it. So first we create, we kind of describe all the piece parts to our window, our custom window, and then after we create them, we instantiate an object of that window or that Jframe. Okay? So we've talked about inheritance a bunch of times. Now is your chance to take a look and use a class that's already been kind of designed for us, right? Okay, so that's the first thing. So if you notice in this particular thing, we have a public constructor called label frame, which is the same name as our class, label frame, which is our custom class we're creating here. And I also have to call in the superclass. And what I'm sending here to the superclass for Jframe itself, as an example, is this testing JLabel and this really what this is the title bar of the window. That's what we're sending in there in the superclass. For us to test that out, if I wanted to use all these piece parts, right? Again, if I wanted to make a Jframe, I would just import this class, javax.swing.jframe. So let's try that out. So if I'm here in Eclipse, right, and I don't want to create my own class, if I notice I have javax.swing.jOptionPane, right? So if I want to have access to the Jframe, I got to import that as a new class. So javax.swing, and then if I start typing capital J, right? If you notice, Jframe comes up, right? And the Java docs underneath it tell you what it is, right? It says an extended version of the Java AWT, the abstract library we're talking about, right? That adds support for different swing component architecture. That's what it is, right? And what it is, it says it's slightly incompatible with the frame class, and like all other JFC swing top-level containers, a Jframe contains a JRoot pane as its only child, which means it's got this almost like an invisible view, if you will. Okay, lots of gobbledygook when you look at it and you're like, what does this all mean, Tom? But really, it's pretty simple. In the Java docs, it even gives you the implementation if you go in there. If you notice here, it says frame.add, because this is the way we would add in our child. Doesn't this look familiar with what we've been doing on the JavaScript side? If you're with me on with the first in our first class, some of you are, you'll notice this is very similar. Add child. It doesn't say it's one thing. It's the add method, but this add method adds a child object to the parent frame. That's all it does. So the parent frame would be your new Jframe. Okay. Now here's a question for you. Do I have to create my own custom class? For example, if I just did this and I said Jframe, okay, so I'm importing my Jframe, and down in here, as an example, I'm going to kind of declare, instead of first number and all this kind of stuff, right, I want to create my own custom class. I can declare it as type Jframe, no? What if I did this? So I'm not making a class, a custom class. You would assume that when you start off and you say, I'm going to call this my window, okay, just so we know what it is, and I use the new keyword to kind of say new Jframe, right? If I do this and press the open kind of parentheses, usually I should get some kind of, you know, different kind of constructor signatures, which I do. And if you notice, this is all the stuff that the Jframe can do. It can talk to, it takes the empty constructor, right, which is nothing. It can also take this graphics configuration if I want to send that to the Jframe, which is nothing that we're going to talk about right now. But this is what we're doing here in our example our examples in the PowerPoint presentation. We're sending a title to the Jframe itself, right? So I can send a title bar string. And there's other ones, okay? But for now, all we need to do is if we want to send a title in there, like for example, this is my window or test window. Let's just call it my window because I'm just going to call it the same thing. So I send it in there. Now I've created it right here. This is where I've created my Jframe. Will it open right away? How come? How do I, even if I was to do it this way, and we're just kind of thinking about it, okay? We're just kind of making it like as if we never created our own custom class. Yeah?
I think you have to set it to visible.
Okay. So look what it says here. It got a bit of an error. It says the value of the local variable my window is not used. And there's a couple of options I have here. It says I can remove my window in all of its assignments. I can add or suppress warnings unused to my window. I don't want to do these things. These are all silly things to do, right? But I could do them as quick fixes. So now that I've declared it, my window, in here inside the body of my class, I can go further down. And let's say I want to do this not in my try catch, but before. So before I do my little pop-up, I just do it here, just to leave everything the way it is. And I guess I'm basing it off our last lesson 4, but we're going to come back and create our new lesson in a second. Okay, so if I say my window, I start typing dot, and then if you notice, there's a bunch of different things. So if I say get content panel, that's not really what I want. If I say set visible, which is what you're saying, right? That should turn everything on, yeah? Let's check that out. So set visible, and I'll set it to true. So now my Jframe should be visible if all goes well, and if I'm intuiting this correctly, right? Then I should be able to do to run a test based off my this current class. So I kind of pull up. It says, hey, my first integer is 1, and my second integer is 3, and where's my Jframe? How come my Jframe didn't kick off? Yes. But I haven't declared anything either. If I go back to my code, let's go back and look at PowerPoint, what it shows me. It's telling me to extend the Jframe class. I'm also sending, I'm already doing this. Look, I'm already doing this. I'm sending it a test label, right? I didn't set the layout. I haven't done that. So right now it says new flow layout. Well, in order for me to do that, I've got to kind of put together this, I got to use this import. So far I haven't needed it because I'm not putting anything in there, right? But let's do that just to appease the gods of Java, right? Let's put in java.awt.flowLayout. That's just one type of layout we can use, right? So go back in there and inside of our imports, because some people think things should work out a certain way in Java, and unfortunately it does not. I could put that, but okay, so there's my flow layout. I've got that piece as well. And you know what? Let us not just make it visible. Before I make it visible, I've already set my Jframe as my window. Well, you know what? Let's go my window, and I'm going to say dot. And if you notice, it says, let's go back to this, make sure I got the right thing. Set layout, which is exactly what I'm doing. So I want to set layout. Here it is. And inside there, I can choose the flow layout that we talked about before, which is exactly what I would be doing here. And instead of doing it inside my custom class, I'm just doing it with our built-in Jframe class, right? So instead of this new flow layout, this is an anonymous, unnamed flow layout that I'm using. I could name this. I can make my own custom flow layout and call it something, but right now it's using an anonymous call. So new. And then I can say flow layout with a capital L. And if I've got this in there, hey, look, there's a flow layout. How come it's not doing it? Well, I got to put these in there as well, right? Because that'll solve the problem. Okay, so that does the flow layout. This makes it visible, kind of thing. And it should happen before this try catch block. Let's just for simplicity's sakes, we're just going to put all this in stasis, which is like what I like to call when we kind of comment everything out. So we'll just comment all the other stuff out because we don't need it all, right? And all we have in here is this Jframe right now. We don't care about this stuff. Let's just run it and see what the hell happens, right? And see if it actually does anything. Well, there's a couple things to note, right? Take a look at the bottom of my screen here. I've got a couple of these pop-ups that are coming up. So if I actually look down here, if you notice, I do have two different Java things going on down here, right? And if you notice, look what it says, my window. So it is generating my window, right? But like we said before, there's nothing in it, right? So my window is being generated. It's not like I'm not generating my window. I just haven't told it all the piece parts to add in. I've added the layout. I've set it to visible, which is one piece I need to do. Again, I can't really see anything because there's nothing to see because I haven't created anything around it. Let's quit these ones. These are just examples of my window and go back. So I'm doing it without creating my custom class. I want you to know how to think about how to do this. Let's say if this way is what we were going to do. Okay, let us do this. Let us do the rest of this piece. I'm going to create a label, and I'm going to add in a label that says, here's a label with text. And I'm going to add the label to my window, right? Because I can do that. So let's go back and try that. Now, in order for me to do a JLabel, I need to import the class, right? Javax swing JLabel. Okay, I need to do that. If I don't do that, I can't do the label, right? Now again, I could have said javax.swing.star and that'll be everything, but that adds a lot of overhead. So let's try this again. So Java import, we'll leave our flow layout at the bottom for now. javax.swing and then .jlabel, right? If that class is correct, which it is, I haven't used it yet. My JOption pane is not being used anymore because I kind of subbed it out. And here's my window visible is equal to true. That's okay. And here's my layout. And inside my layout, after I do my layout, I want to create my own new label. So I'm going to make it of type JLabel, right? That's what it is. And it's going to be called my label is equal to new JLabel. And if I look at the constructor for the JLabel, I have a couple of options. One, an icon image, some text, and some other options. I think I want to use this one as text. If you hover over it, it tells you. The Java docs tell you what you need, right? Creates a JLabel instance with the specified text. And the label is aligned against the leading edge of its display area and centered vertically. All right, so this is all basic default parameters. Text, the text can be displayed by the label, which is just a string literal. Right, so here I'm going to put in my label. Okay, this is my window. This is my label. Okay, that's cool. And of course, it's not really, even though I've instantiated it, just like we do with JavaScript and other frameworks, we need to add it to the window. We can't just instantiate it and think it's part of things. So we're going to do that. We're going to say my window dot, and I'm going to start typing add, right? And if you notice, it's going to wait for a component, right? Which is of course not the add windows listener. I picked the wrong one, but I'm going to put we're going to put in there, of course, my label, right? If I've done things correctly, it won't complain, right? Okay, let's try that. I'm saving it, and let's run it now and see if now does it come and show me the label, right? Because I'm not seeing anything. I do see this. Hey, look at it. Here it is. Here's my window, right? Right? You see that? Huh? It's beautiful, huh? Here's my label. It's centered, right? That's what the default values are, right? If I close this off, it doesn't close. Look. Why doesn't it close off? Because you know what? There's no behavior we've defined for a close. We have to define all the behaviors for our GUI here. If we don't define the behaviors, the behaviors don't happen. We cannot assume anything with Java. With Windows, if you click the X, you expect that it's going to close, but not necessarily so with Java. Okay, let's click a close from there. So I've added my label, right? I haven't really decided how big my window. We're going to go into how you can kind of decide your window. It also says label 1, set tooltip text. Tooltip text. What's tooltip text? Do you guys remember?
Yeah, when you highlight something, it displays a little message.
Tooltip, right? That kind of hovers over it, almost like a context-sensitive kind of hover. That's what really it is, right? I can do the same thing. I can set tooltip text to, hey, this is my label, right? Let's do that. And this is all without a class. There's no custom class going on here. It's showing you a custom class in the book, but I need you to understand how to do this without a custom class because there's advantage and disadvantage to doing it either way, okay? Let's take a look and see how this works. So again, I know that it's part of my window, right? So here we go. So I'm going to type my window dot, and again, there's a bunch of different things here that we want to put together. And again, we made it visible, and there's different features we can add in. But what we really want to do, not to talk, is we want to go set this tooltip text. Okay, so we're going to start typing set and look, where's my set tooltip text? I got set title and blah blah. Why? Because if you notice back in the PowerPoint presentation, guess what I'm missing? I've got a Jframe, a JLabel, but see this swing constants, icon, and image icon, and all this stuff. sometimes I need to include all these imports for me to have everything I need to manipulate stuff and add images and blah, blah, blah. If I don't do this, I ain't getting anything. So I need to add all these components. So what if, just to indulge myself, to make it simple for myself, right? What if on the top of my imports here, I just went like this. Can I do this? javax.swing.star. Is that possible? And then do I need these two things? All these J options and J panes and blah, blah, blah. Will that include everything? Let's leave it the way it is for now, right? So I'm going to set, I'm going to go set, right? I don't see tooltip text, but let's just put it in anyway. Tooltip text, like as if I have it, right? Here's my tooltip text. It says, hey, it says, I don't have it. One quick fix is I gotta add a cast to my windows. Like one quick fix. Okay, that's cool. Let me just add my tooltip text. So this is my window. My window. Right? And it tells me that I need to my quick fix is to add a cast of J component. That didn't fix nothing, man. I knew it wouldn't. Right? Because that's what I'm trying to do here. I don't need to do that, and the reason why this isn't pulling up set tooltip text is because I'm missing something from my class that I have access to here. I'm going to come back. Let's circle back to this, right? Let's circle back to this label. Well, this first of all, I'm doing it on the window, and I'm supposed to do it on the label. There we go. So not this, silly Tom. It's supposed to be my label, silly Tom. Tricks are for kids. Right? All right, that's too old. You guys don't understand those inferences. Okay, so here we go. I got my tooltip text, and I kind of launched this thing. I got my window that's all tied up here. Look, it's all minimized up here, like this. Why is it doing that? Did you ever try it on yours? Does it do the same thing for you? How come? How come it does that? It's a default size. Unless I specify a size, which I have not, right? It kind of gathers up together up here. Okay, so if I highlight, if I kind of hover over my label, this is my window. Shouldn't do that. It should kind of do, it should kind of say, this is my label, right? Because that's what it really should say. I'm going to save this now and I'm going to go back in here and kill it and run it again. And if every time I run it, it kind of provides this minimized version of my window here. Right? This is where it comes up, and if I hover over it, this is my label, right? Very simple GUI components. It does follow other behaviors. So if I want to, on the Mac version, it does minimize, right? And everything else. But when I click this button, sure, the window pops away because that's the default behavior, but my program doesn't close out, right? We got to specify that it does that for us. We have to set that up, okay? So I wanted to kind of specify that as well. Okay, let's go back. So we've done this piece. We've added the label on there. And now there's some icons we can add in, right? This is interesting because in order for us to get this bug icon, we've got to have it as somewhere where it's part of our project, right? So here, this next piece, if I want to add this new bug icon, image icon, I'm doing this, again, I'm just repeating myself, but I'll say it again. I'm doing this outside of a custom class. Okay? So let's take a look. I'd have to do this. First of all, it's the class icon. I'm going to do a bug. That's what the icon's going to be called if we're going to do the same thing. And I'm going to do a new image icon, right? And we're going to use the resources that I have. I might have some resources that I can upload to Blackboard here for you guys. So you can have all the resources I have for this chapter, which of course, if you look at it, is chapter 12. So let me just do that now. I'm going to go into my resources for the chapter. And here's Java how to program. And of course, I don't have any. Here's my solutions manual for 10. And of course, I don't have any of my code. I love it. Let's go in here and see if I've got some classes, but I don't have any of my resources for the thing. But we can use something else for our label. I just want to make sure that when we do this kind of stuff, that we have access to not just the solutions, but also the code and the examples. But again, if if I want to use any kind of, if it's an icon, there's some specifications for an icon that are different than just a, what's the specification for an icon? Do you guys know? If you don't know, I would go to the Java docs that are online, and I'll say icon, for Java specifications. Right? What are the icons? How do they work for icons? Right? And if you notice, if I go to Java SC specifications, right? It doesn't really do anything for me. How about if I say Java swing icon or image icon size, right? So I want to know what the image icon size is, and it says the label dimension is set to only 100, and of course they don't have an answer here for us. I want to find a simple way of you guys finding it. Swing resize, size of frame icons used in swing. That's frame icons, not image icons. How to use icons. Java tutorials, right? And the trick is the icons are quite small, right? That's why I don't want to just pick an icon for you guys. And I want you, I mean, it's in the book too, but I want you guys, if you don't have the book somehow, to go through and find, a size of the icon. My guess, it's probably going to be 16 pixels by 16 pixels, or 32 pixels by 30 pixels, which is standard, typically along any kind of icon. Now, the good thing about it, if you look at our PowerPoint presentation, I'm just going to close this off. The good thing about it is that the PowerPoint presentation tells us that the icon is a ping image, which we know how to make, right? So we can make any ping image we want. Now, this is the Dialog book, so we can always go up on their site and download their resources for their code, right? So worst case scenario, that's another thing you could do, because we are using this Dialog Java how to program. So I can go to Dialog.com, right, for the resources, and I can go to, it's interesting, I'm using this book for the other thing, and I can say for books, I want to look at Java, and I go Java how to program early objects, which is what we're doing, right? And then down here I've got code, right? So I got download code examples, and there's other resources before you begin, errata, forward, blah 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 blah. But I need this code stuff, download code resources, and it says this is the messenger case study. Here's some code examples. Maybe that'll be it. And maybe they have it, maybe they don't. Let's take a look really quickly. Chapter 12. And there's some figures. They've got some figures. I want to find that bug. Here it is. Bug1.ping. Isn't it silly? Right? And where do I put this bug1.ping? Right? I'm just going to kind of minimize this thing. And I'm going to go back to here. I need to make it available to my code, right? So before I call it my bug1.ping resource, where would I put this thing? First of all, let me ask you a question. From a project perspective, have we ever done images or icons before, right? And the answer is no, right? We haven't done that yet. It's got to be into the default package somewhere. So I could simply go kind of a new, item or file or folder. I could do a folder, because really what I want to do is kind of access this folder or a file. But for now, let's just leave it where it is in the default package, and let's see if we're able to do the same thing we can do with Visual Studio by dragging and dropping this thing into the default package, right? Okay, it says select how the files should be imported. We want to copy the files in and press OK, right? And look, we have in our default package now a bug1.ping image, right? Now, again, you can get this off the Dialog website just like I did. I didn't do anything special. I didn't log in as an instructor. I just got it right off the site. Okay, I'm going to upload, update my GitHub though in a second, and you'll have it online too, right? So, but let's try this out. So now I want to add this icon, and I can probably do my what's in the PowerPoint presentation here. Okay, so here it is. I've got to do this icon. I'm calling it an icon. But this is interesting. Here's something that we've never seen before either. I'm saying icon, it's the data type, icon. bug is my variable. I'm using the new keyword, which specifies that I should be using a, I'm using constructor notation here, and then I'm going image icon. Well, image icon isn't icon. It's two different classes. Why is this allowed to happen? How can I do this? Does anyone know? Yes?
Just a guess, but is it because image icon is extended from icon?
You got it. And the reason why is because icon is the superclass and image icon is the subclass. And it really, I mean, I could do it the other way around. I could say instead of icon, what if I just ignored this icon, right? And I just made it so it's image icon. Let's try that. Let's see if it causes us to have a problem. I want you to experiment this way. When you think of Java, think about any other language that's out there. C#, JavaScript, whatever. All classes and objects and languages work very similarly. It doesn't matter. You do not have to know every nuance of the language. You could pick it up because once you know object orientation, you understand how it works. You can program in Swing if you're going to do things with iOS. You can do things for Android. You can do things in Java, C#, whatever. So let's pick it up. Let's try it. So I'm going to say it's an icon image. I'm just going to follow along here, right? And by the way, I'm going to put this, one thing I need to do is keep my stuff together. So I'm just going to kind of leave my, this is my label. This is my label piece. So this is my label, right? I added my label in here. And this in here is where I'm going to add my icon. Add icon, right? Add label to my Jframe. And my icon, if I start typing image icon, let's see if that works, right? So far so good. And I call it bug, like that's on the presentation there, is equal to new image icon. And I call for a constructor, I use control space to try and figure out what my constructor options are. And these are them all. These are all of them, right? I can choose one of these, but and if I specify one of them, they'll give me, again, the Java docs will specify what I can put in. And this is, look, take a look at this, my new image icon with a path to my images, right? Wherever my image is. But now, if you notice from before, if I look at the PowerPoint presentation, it's using this get class and get resource. Why is it doing this? Because sometimes what happens is if we want to directly use an icon like that, it'll error out. It's really weird that way. And we want to use the get resource method to do that. Get class dot get resource and then bug1.ping, right? So let's try that out. So get class dot get resource, right, here it is. And now we put in there, you know, in quotations bug1.ping, and then we kind of do this. Okay, so if everything goes well, we shouldn't get any kind of issues, but we do. He says cannot make a static reference to a non-static method get class from the type object. Well, when I say get class, where am I using the get class from? What is it really supposed to be? Because I'm doing that in my custom class. The example in PowerPoint is for my custom class. Am I saying that I want to use the Jframe get class? Which one am I mean? What do I mean by that? Is it this? Is that what I mean for my get class? Right? And what if, just for a lark, right? Because I'm the kind of guy that does these things, I don't even bother using it. Can I do it this way? Is that admissible? Right? And if I do such a thing, this new image icon called bug, as an example, and I still have an issue. It says I have a problem. It says the value of the local variable bug is not used. Okay, it's the same issue as before. It's a warning, but it's not really an error, right? Okay, let's see if that causes an issue. Okay, cool. I've got my bug. Here's my icon here, but I haven't really done anything with it. I've just created it here as an icon, right? Where is it that I add this icon to my, here it is, label 3 set icon to bug, right? Well, we don't have to wait till label 3 to do that because we're not going to create another label. So we've done a couple of labels already. Let's use my set icon for my existing label. Okay. So we're going to take this image icon, which you would have had to create before my label in order for it to be instantiated as an object. Here it is. I'm just moving it up here now, right? And if things go well, right, if it's flexible enough, here's my label. We're going to say my label dot set icon. Well, okay, cool. But it's listening for an icon, and I've got an image icon. I'm going to put bug in there. Maybe that'll help me out. Maybe it'll work. Maybe it won't error out. Okay, cool. Here's my image icon. Let's see if if there's an error anywhere. Okay, so far no errors. Let's run it out, see what happens. No crashings, right? But also no icon, right? I don't get an icon, all right? So I've broken some of the conventions here. I've kind of gone outside of what I'm supposed to do because, you know, I'm trying to be smart, right? How about if I just make it an icon? Will that help? Right? 'Cause this is what the book says for us to do, right? Let's see what happens. I want you to play around with this, guys, because sometimes what happens is this playing around that we're doing teaches us the most. Hey, look, my label. Well, I know that bug1.ping is right here, right? Here it is. It's part of my namespace, right? So I know it's available to me, right? Okay, I haven't done anything different. If I drag and drop this into my code, can I do that? Well, yeah, it'll open up what bug1.icon will look like. That's what it does. It doesn't really do anything. It's like double-clicking on it because it doesn't understand ping files, right? But I want to use this get resource thing because if I don't use my get resource thing, it seems to me that, you know what, we won't be able to access this icon without doing that. We have to go through the right methods or else it doesn't understand what to do with this new image icon. Right, how we link it on. One other thing, if you notice, it says, here's my label 2, new label, and here's my label with text and icon, and I included bug here for label 2, right? Well, that's good. I can do that, and it says swings constants. Here's my constants to left. Maybe this will move my label to the left. Let's try that out with my Java, right? So here's my label, right? I can indicate a, right? I can indicate this one, which is an icon, right? This is, now I'm going to choose this constructor method. So my icon is going to be bug, right? Bug1, or just bug, sorry. And under bug, I want to indicate an alignment for the icon, which is going to be my swing constants that I'm going to use that it shows here. So it says swing constants, capital S, capital C, dot left, right? Which is what I'm going to put in here. Swing constants dot left. Well, see, so when I put in that, when I put in import java dot swing star, it seems that I have access to all those things, right? Okay, I'm just going to save this, and let's see if that fixes it, right? Because I can put it up here. And you know what? I'm setting my icon to bug too. Will that fix it? No. Why? Because I'm not doing things the right way. I still got to follow protocol that I'm not following. Okay, so tell me, what is my protocol? What do I put in here for my image icon? How can I get the path to this bug1.ping file, which happens to sit right here? Come on, you're going to be the guy that's going to do it tomorrow because I'm going to give you an assignment. Where would I look it up? Come on, I need you guys to help me out here. Like, Matt, let's do this together. So on my PowerPoints, so far it's been working. But remember, this scope that we're looking in here, the scope that we're looking into the PowerPoint is we're looking at this new label frame that extends Jframe, and I'm not doing that. I'm going outside that saying, nope. And I was able to set layout to the window, right, which is Jframe. Could it be that we might get resource as part of Jframe? Is that what it could be? I tried it. It didn't work. Let's try it again by going into Eclipse and trying it out. Meanwhile, can I appoint somebody to look it up? Can I get you to look it up? Look up the way to get to use get class.getResource, the getResource method to load up an image into into my Jframe. Okay, so here's my new image icon. And I want to, what it's saying is I should be able to do something like this. This is what I'm guessing. If I don't know nothing about Java, right? I should be able to do something like this. My window dot, right? Here's my window dot, and when I go dot, I get my code hinting here. And what I want to do is I want to do something like this: get class, right? Here's my get class. See, it's available to me here. Get class dot, right? And I'm going to type get resource. There's get resource, so I'm able to access it, right? Get resource, and then the resource, which is bug1.ping, right? So this works, but this returns something that's going to go into the bit bucket because I'm not getting anything right now. So this is the way I would do it. Is this correct? I'm guessing. See, you're not able to look it up because we don't know what to look up. And that's what Google Foo is all about.
Find a different way.
Okay, let's leave it for now. I want to come back to that. I want to come back to you. You're going to tell me the different way, okay?
Okay.
So let's try this. Let's try, if I was going to do this, I'm gonna kind of get rid of this and put this over here, right? And this is what the full kind of the full way to do it without the shortcut, because I need my window because I'm not instantiating my own class. I'm just using the existing Jframe class, the built-in one that I'm creating this resource with. Okay, so that's cool. I've got my icon. I've saved it. Now I'm going to run it. Maybe it'll do. Oh, I'm getting an error. It says exception in thread main Java lang null pointer exception to image icon in it. It says at program main Java 29, right, which is right here. So I'm trying to get a resource bug1.ping that I can't get access to. Okay, what's your solution? It could.
What this one says is to specify like the name of your class. So in this case, it would be program.class, and then .get resource, and inside that put the name of the
Okay, so not the get class, but program.class, right?
Program.class.
So program.class, and then not get class, but the get resource right through here, right?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Okay. I like your thinking. Let's see if it causes me a problem. Okay, still got this minimized version, and bam, there's my icon. Why did I have to do this program.class? What am I talking about? When I access my program, why is it that I have to do it this way as opposed to the way it shows it on the PowerPoint presentation? Here I'm creating a custom class, yeah? Here in my code though, there's no custom class. There's no custom class here. I'm just doing it right here inside my main. My point to you is the reason why we create a custom class for a Jframe is we have more control. We create our own Jframe. We don't use the one that's built in. The one that's built in is good. It's a good template, if you will, for everything else we want to do. But when I'm creating a window, I want to make my own custom window. This is the right way to do it. Actually, it's the right way to do it in any language. If I create a form for C#, right? A Windows form in C#. Who's done that before? Who's taken C# like 101 kind of thing, creating a Windows form in C#? You have a form class, right? And you inherit from the form class when you make your own Windows form. But this is what we're doing. But instead, what I'm doing is I'm taking a shortcut and trying to do things on my own, right? And by the way, it's working with some modifications. But if I ever wanted to use this, if I ever wanted to call my window again with all these features and everything else, I could not. I could not generate the same window again and again. This is why we make our class. This is not reusable code. This is code that I use one time and it's gone, right? And this is why we make a class, because a class contains, it's a custom data type that includes all of the stuff that I want plus all of my configuration that I could turn off and on at will, right? Let's go back to the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, so I've kind of got to add a couple things here. I added the icon. I set the icon as a bug. I can do that, and then I also can do the. Here's the label constructor with no arguments. So there's two different ways that it's showing you here. Okay, one way that you set the constructor with arguments, right? Here we are with a constraint swing constants of left to put the icon on the left-hand side, right? And we can set the tooltip text right here, right? And for label 3, it's just like label 2 in this example here, but instead of throwing everything into the constructor, we don't throw anything into the constructor, because remember, the constructor is overloaded. We have an option to set everything after, like this. So there's both ways are acceptable. Any questions around this? So a Jframe. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.